Would you date someone with $20,000 in credit card debt? What about 1,000? Turns out your love life might be more tied to your wallet than you think. In this episode, we are diving into the uncomfortable truth about how money, especially debt, can impact dating, relationships, and even how many times people swipe right on you. Let's get real about red flags, green flags, and everything in between when love and money collide. Let's go.
Welcome to the Financial Mirror. Where future success is reflected in our knowledge of fixing the one thing we can control, ourselves.
Welcome to the Financial Mirror, and thanks for joining me today as we continue to work to improve the one thing that we can control, ourselves. Here at the Financial Mirror, it is not about the numbers and spreadsheets alone, but about transforming and educating you on money so that you can make smarter financial decisions. If this is the first time you're joining in, don't forget to hit subscribe on YouTube to be notified of all the new episodes as they release. If you're listening on Rumble, don't forget to follow the channel and like the video. And on any podcast platform of your choice, don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast. So, how do finances, especially debt, affect dating and relationships? Well, I was doing a little scrolling myself and I ran across this article and I thought I did an episode a few weeks back where I talked about how, you should combine finances and marriage, and it's key to really just being aligned on financial goals and things like that. And so when I saw this, I was like, well, this is interesting because this can talk about those items before you become a married couple. And so I dove into it, but Nerd Wallet did a little survey, and it talked about and this is what caught my eye, 1 in 10 Americans would never date someone in credit card debt. Meaning credit card debt is a deal breaker for many. And Gen Z is at like 15% as being like a hard no to debt. Millennials like 13%, and Gen X and baby boomers are semi less concerned about debt than some of the others. But this was just a very, very interesting article. And we're going to kind of go through some of this and what does it mean, and how can you really begin to understand. And if you're in the dating world or you got kids in the dating world, this is just those conversations that you should be having, or that you can have with yourself, just to think through and do this. But why are younger people more debt adverse? It's very interesting how when you start looking at the numbers, more of the younger, like Gen Z, being 15% a hard no to debt. And then that number kind of goes down a little bit each different generation. So it's very interesting. And you have to wonder, is it like economic anxiety? Is it this like social media, this aesthetic pressure, these fire movements that everybody talks about and wants to be a part of? All these things could be growing focus on financial health as a part of being necessary for relationships, right? So what are people actually looking for when they say they're looking for someone financially responsible? And that's what I really wanted to talk about today. Is I want to give a few like super hard red flags when we think about money and dating. And then what are some of those more like proceed with caution, yellow, green flags that you can really be looking for? But the key here is that if you are in the dating game, whether you're young and you're just really kind of dating to figure out the whole dating thing, or you're in your 20s, 30s, and you're getting a little bit more serious about dating and looking for some long-term partner. All of these things are super important because if you know one thing, money is something that makes marriages hard. When we think about money and problems with money in marriage, it can be hard. I'm not ever going to say that you go through these red and green flags and all of a sudden relationships are just perfect and wonderful. But what I hope to do is minimize some of the friction that could come up later in conversation as you're kind of going through and maturing in that relationship. So let's start off with the red flags. Number one red flag, and I don't know if there's anything more problematic than this, but hiding debt or minimizing debt. Hiding debt could be as blatant as saying, I don't have any debt and you do, but you could just be minimized, saying, it's just a few $1,000s in debt. It's nothing really, but um, maybe it's actually $15,000 or $20,000. And now we have a bigger problem, right? So that's kind of that first red flag. If you're in conversation, if you're having a sit down, you're talking money with someone that you're looking at getting into a serious relationship with, and they're just minimizing it or hiding it, be like, oh, it's nothing, it's just a few thousand, and uh, there could be some problems in the future, right? And that minimization of that debt could lead to problems later because you could say, well, it wasn't just a few thousand, it was $15,000. And now we have a problem, right? Another major red flag that you could run into is talking to someone and they're talking about their debt and they have no real plan to repay it. They're not really focused on trying to repay it. There's no interest in creating a plan. You're like, hey, how are you trying to attack paying off that debt? And there's like, I'm just kind of going with the flow. I pay a little more here and there when I can, but they're kind of just nonchalant with it. They're not really aggressively going after trying to get out of debt. Big major red flag, right? Big major red flag, because financially, if you are in debt, your worth, your wealth, your net worth, if let's just say, is below zero, right? Unless you have this crazy amount of assets, your net worth is less than zero. So minimizing that and having no true intention or plan to repay it and get your net worth back to zero, you are taking that on in that relationship as well, right? Maybe not in the dating world, but you get into the marriage world, like it's kind of like it's no longer his and hers, it's our debt, right? They may have brought the baggage to the relationship, but you've accepted it, right? So that's kind of that minimization and that no planning to repay it. Two major red flags. The third is that there could be a potential for a major lifestyle mismatch. If you're someone that's prioritizing financial responsibility, you're someone that's prioritizing building wealth, you're someone that's going after putting your best foot forward financially, maybe there's some lifestyle mismatch if a lot of the debt is expensive taste, meaning shopping all the time, eating expensive meals, like those things. There may be some lifestyle mismatch that you're going to deal with. The other thing that I'm looking for, and that's from that lifestyle mismatch, is if you're being financially responsible, you may be talking to someone that doesn't budget at all. They kind of willy nilly their way through life with their finances. Major hiccup in the future for you if you are someone that is financially responsible. So that's just a few things that are just red flags that you should really pump the brakes, stop, make sure this is worth it. Maybe you're not already too deep in, not telling you to break up with them, but just be aware. These are major red flags, and you either can talk about them now or they're gonna bite you in the rear end later, right? So what are some of those green flags? Some of those, like, it's a problem, but maybe we can kind of work through it. Well, the first one that I would say, and it kind of goes back to that hiding debt, is kind of the opposite there, but they have debt and they know exactly how much they have. They know exactly what the APR is on it, and they have a plan. More importantly than both of those things, they have a plan. If someone came to you and said, hey, I've got 15,000 in debt, APRs range from about 8% on a personal loan up to 24% on my highest credit card. But it's 15,000, but I've got a plan, and if I can just continue to stick to that plan with no setbacks, I'll be out of debt in 18 months. Right? That is a lot better than being like, oh, it's just a few thousand, and it's nothing. I'll have it paid off sooner or later. Like, big differences there, right? Big difference. So very much a problem that there's an issue there with your debt, but there's a plan. And that's where you can now look at this and say, hey, I believe them. They've got a plan. Um, and I'm going to motivate them. I'm going to encourage them to get through that plan. There's some positivity that could come to that relationship if that's what you're hearing. Another one is like, yeah, I've never really had someone show me money, but they're open to discussing budgets and future planning and goals and all of those type of things. That's another one that, like, yeah, like I'm not real good with money. I don't really manage it well, but I'm willing to learn. Like I'm open to learn. I want to discuss budgeting. I want to plan future finances. I want to have financial goals. I just don't know where to start. If you're someone that's like financially literate and you have a good understanding of how to be financially responsible, maybe this is not a major red flag for you. Maybe you're like, yeah, like I can help teach you. I can help grow you in that arena. Give you a little bit of something to think about. All of those things are positive. At least this person is open and telling you like they're just not good with it. Never had a role model around finances, and you could be someone that could really help them out. Another, just thing that I would tell you is kind of a green flag, like approach with caution, but not terrible. Is that if they're using terms like, yeah, I'm really trying to build my emergency fund. Yeah, I've been trying to find like a good side hustle to make a little extra cash to pay off my debt. Like little things like that go a long way. Like they are making initiatives. They are really putting a big foot forward to try to get things paid off. And that is a good sign. So, really and truthfully, it's not about how much debt the person has. And I think that's where this survey kind of leads people wrong is that the survey talks about how 1 in 10 Americans would never date someone with credit card debt. And I think that that's kind of shallow in a way. Um, I'm not saying that it's wrong, but I think that it really comes down to those red and green flags. Like, it's not about them dating someone with or without debt. It's about how well are they managing that debt. And that brings us kind of to that question of it, what is the limit that people in this survey are saying? And is there a limit, right? Because the biggest deal breaker here is that they're talking about that debt may be a dating deal breaker. Like I said, is it? I don't know. Maybe. But NerdWallet, and this is in that survey, NerdWallet talked about most Americans would theoretically date someone with credit card debt. In fact, 2 in 5 of those who said this, 40%, say no amount of credit card debt is a deal breaker in a relationship. However, others say they have limits to how much credit card debt they would abide in a romantic partner. Okay. Now, so on average, 20,711 is the amount of credit card debt that would be a deal breaker. All right. This kind of shows you what those numbers are and where they land. I'll throw those up so you can see them. But here's the thing. NerdWallet saying the average in that survey is saying about $20,711. Median deal breaker is just $1,000. Now, people have thresholds. They have just numbers that they're just not willing to go over. Maybe it feels overwhelming for them to feel like that they have to be semi-responsible to help get this paid off. But context matters. Someone with $5,000 and a payoff plan, green flag, right? Like approach with caution, but probably okay to go, right? 5,000, but they have a payoff plan. Someone with $500, like 4,500 less, but zero concern, willy-nilly, minimizing, or maybe hiding, like all those things, red flag, right? Stop. Bad idea, right? But I guess my question is, what's your personal threshold? Is there a number? Like, is there really a number where someone's like, yep, I am not dating someone if they have $5,000 in debt? Comment below. Like, I am curious. Like, this was a very like interesting article to me because I am all about like planning and getting the hard conversations out of the way first. And if we can get people talking about money and saying, hey, look, I think you're a cool cat, but man, 5,000 just a little too much for me. Like I just, it sounds so harsh just, just talking about it, but I am like, to me, to me, it feels like, it's more about the planning. It's more about the someone that's responsible. It's more about someone that is really putting their best foot forward to try to get that all paid off, right? We all make mistakes. We all get caught up in a bind. Maybe something, happened where they needed to accumulate extra debt for whatever reason. Maybe there's a little bit to scratch right there on the surface to figure out more about it. But to me, it's not about how much debt someone has. It really isn't. It's about how you talk about it, and that's where things can really make or break a relationship. Is how can you talk about it with that other person, right? Because that's really what it's about. That's really what it's about. Is like how can you talk about it? And more importantly, if you're just now in like fresh in a relationship, maybe it's not time. Maybe it's not time. Maybe a few months into the relationship, bringing it up. But what you don't want to do is turning this into like a job interview, right? You don't want to kill the vibe with the relationship. It shouldn't be like as blunt as like, so tell me about your net worth, right? Like, probably not a good idea. But look for opportunities to bring it up naturally. So, like, if you're planning a trip together, or maybe you're talking about splitting a bill, or maybe you're talking about like some of their like future like aspirations financially and things like that. Like, just talk about it in a way that maybe can have someone, I don't want to say expose a little bit of information, but just provide a little nugget of information that you can then maybe scratch just a little bit to talk about it, right? Because and I think the important part when we're talking about money and dating and debt and is there too much and all that stuff is really being intentional of like, hey, like, I just want someone that's serious about finances. I want someone that's serious about, not just throwing cash away and kind of living life day to day. Like, I want someone that's like is intentional about how they're spending their money. But use some of that values based language. Like, what are your financial goals? Like, that's much better than saying like, how much money do you make? Right? Whoa, who are you? Not the thing, right? So once again, I think that the little whole entire little article, survey, whatever, is kind of misleading. Hope that people don't have some financial number that they're talking about, but maybe you do. And throw it in the comment section if you do. But I always think about it from a sense that there are um, a ton of reasons people end up in debt. Um, I think the number one reason people end up in debt is lack of education. They don't understand how problematic that debt will become, and they kind of put it off, and then it becomes problematic, and then they get serious about it, right? But that's kind of the flow. That's kind of the logic that happens there. Um, but the thing is don't shame or preach to someone when you're talking about it. Be curious. Don't ask things like, do you budget? Ask things like, hey, how do you feel about budgeting? Right? Like, be a little vulnerable. That vulnerability will help with some of that connection. Help someone talk about such a sensitive, topic for many, right? But uh, I will tell you that talking about money early in a relationship is very important. And I talk about it all the time that you've got to talk about three big things in relationship, and money is one of them. Money, politics, and religion is like three, you know, conversations that have to happen early in a relationship, just so you don't waste each other's time, right? There's just those are the three things that are kind of in you, and you could change all of them theoretically, but they're woven deep, right? So there's a lot of change that would have to happen to kind of change those three things. So talking about money is just important, and there's tons of benefits, whether it be relationship stability, uh, whether it be just open and honest communication being exhibited. Like, all of those are benefits of talking about it early. So uh, just a couple things that I want to leave you with is debt isn't really a deal breaker. I hate that the survey says it. It's not a deal breaker. What I would tell you is a deal breaker is someone that's unwilling to talk about money, someone who's unwilling to prioritize money, someone who uses excuses about money like, well, no one ever taught me how to do money. But what have you done, right? Like, what have you done to try to learn? Like, those are the type of things. Like, it's the actions that the person displays, or the things that they talk about, and how they discuss money. Those are the things that matter more than a number to say like, oh, 20,000 is too much, right? No, it's not. Relationships and money is about sharing a vision together. It's not about equal paychecks. It's not about his and hers. It's not about any of that. It's about having a shared vision for your finances and working to do it together. Debt is not always a deal breaker. Actually, dishonesty is a huge deal breaker. 67% of Americans agree their partner in their relationship is dishonest. That is a deal breaker. That is a tough a tough pill to swallow, right? But debt doesn't have to be, unless there's dishonesty that comes with it, right? But just be aware of this. Just be aware of that. Talking about money is so important. And for many people out there, it's becoming more important because they don't want someone else's financial burden to become their burden, right? So just think it through it. Just think through it all, and just set yourself up for success. Debt isn't the issue. Secrecy and irresponsibility are. So keep that in mind. Be financially aware. It's empowering. It builds relationships, builds strong relationships. And the key is just talking about it. So, like I said, I'll share the survey. It's got some pretty interesting stuff in it, but I thought that it was very much eye-opening, more to the fact that people were so centered on a number. And I wanted to do an episode to talk about how don't focus on the number. Please focus on what people are doing about their money, what people are talking about. Like when there's a problem, how are they addressing it? How are they planning? How are they being deliberate about their finances? Much better way to look at it. So hopefully you got something out of this episode. Always looking for new episodes. So leave comments below, what you like, what you don't like, and things you want to hear me discuss. So till next week, continue improving the one thing you can control, yourself. Peace.
Well, that wraps up today's Financial Mirror. Join us next week as we continue to work on ourselves, change our mentality, and to commit to achieving the success we always envisioned. Regardless of your platform, help us grow as a community. Please like, subscribe, and share with the people in your lives.